Hello, I'm Matt from World of Ukes with a video about my favourite ukulele chord progression. I'm going to show you the sequence of chords and how to play them and give you a few different methods of strumming and picking so that you can make it sound more interesting. So I recently did a magazine article, Uke magazine, where I asked various ukulele artists what their favourite chord progression was, and when putting the email out to people about the sort of thing I wanted, I wrote an example from me, which was this chord progression here. I don't know why it appeals to me, but I just think it sounds really pretty, and it begins with B flat major 7. I'm going to put some diagrams up on the right to show you what I'm playing. Now those diagrams have big dots where to put your fingers, and there are some coloured dots on there. I want you to ignore for now what those colours mean. So the first one, B flat major 7, if you imagine your B flat chord, it's basically the same, but you don't have to play the A string at all. So you're taking a finger away from that A string, no barring on there, and it's the 3rd fret on the 4th string, the 2nd fret on the 3rd string, the 1st fret on the E string, and then an open A. It's a lovely sounding chord. Incidentally, I didn't come up with the chord, that would be silly, but I started playing that right when I began playing the ukulele, and I found playing a B flat was difficult. I wasn't good at barring. I'm not that good at barring now. And I found songs which had a B flat in that I wanted to play, I would cheat and I would just play the B flat major 7 with that open A, and it would kind of work. I mean, I'm not suggesting that you should cheat in that way. It's better to try and learn the proper chord, but at the time I was just going through a ukulele songbook and there was various songs I wanted to play that had B flat in, and every time I would get to the B flat I'd be buzzing away, so I'd just substitute that chord just to get me through the song as I was learning. Then we've got your normal D minor. I won't go through the individual strings because it's just a D minor, and the same with an F. No real need to go through that one. And then even easier, A minor. When I play this, what you'll notice is that this finger here on your E string on the 1st fret, it remains in position for 3 of those 4 chords. So on the B flat major 7th, you've got that first fret on the E string, which is an F note, and then when you go to the D minor, that finger doesn't move, you've still got that F note. And then on the F, it's still there, and you only take it off with the A minor. So this is where those colours come in. I think it's nice when you're playing this sequence just to add a bit of colour to the chord, not the diagram, by adding and removing that finger. So you basically, in the chord, you've got the F, and then you're going to take it off for a strum and go back to E and then back onto the F. So if I just demonstrate that, so we're just going to be playing the sequence, but on the coloured section, that is basically one way we're going to add or remove that finger. So we'll start with the finger pushed down on the fret, and then remove it, and then put it back on. I'll do that again. And then when we move to the D minor chord, we're just going to do the same again, keep it in position for a couple of strums, then remove it for one and then put it back on for one. So starting with the regular D minor, finger off, and back on again. And the same with the F. So 2 strums with the finger on, remove it, and back on. Now, on the A minor in this chord sequence, well, in any chord sequence, that A minor doesn't have an F note in that position. So what we've got instead, just for that little bit of decoration to the chord, is the pink note, which is a C note. We're going to add that on the 3rd strum. So we've got just the C note, so just imagine you're playing a C, and then you're adding you've got an A minor and you're adding that C note. And it just adds a little bit of fanciness. It's not at all difficult, especially that F note going to an E, putting that finger on and then taking it off. But it just gives it a bit of colour. It sounds more impressive, and it's an easy way to achieve it. And I'm all for tips like that. So I'll just play it all the way through. We're going to do a bit of picking now, and there'll be people watching this who will probably think, well, I don't do any picking, I only strum. But I'm sure all of those people can do that thumb strum, because all you're doing is moving your thumb down across the strings. So I'm sure you can do that. Everyone can do that. All I'm going to do is slow that down, and that's the easiest way to start picking, I think. Because you're just slowing it down, so it's even easier than just quickly pushing your thumb down the strings, is to just drag them one by one. And you'll find if you start with your thumb resting on that G string and then pull it down, it naturally comes to a halt on the next string. So we can play that progression again, but using a thumb strum, just starting on the G string to the C string to the E string to the A string, and that's all we have to do. And we could then add those colourful notes that we talked about earlier, and just repeat that strum picking pattern a few times so that we can bring in our finger off and finger back on again. So starting with it on. I'll show you a slightly more complicated picking pattern next, but the thing I want to mention about picking patterns is there's no hard and fast rule with the order in which you pick the strings. If you're left hand, or if you're right-handed like me, it will be your left hand, your fretting hand. If that is holding the chord in position as it is here, whatever your right hand does, it's going to be playing notes that are in that chord, and therefore you can't go wrong with your picking pattern. If you're playing on your own and you pick any combination of strings to pick, it's going to sound right because your fretting hand does not change. So I'll just show you what I mean with a couple of different random patterns, and I'll stick on the same chord, and whatever I do down here, it's still going to sound harmonious because my fretting hand is holding the same chord. You can even apply the same with 2 fingers at once. So it doesn't have to be single strings that you pick. You can do combinations, and of course you can do a strum and then a pick. And it can be any combination you want. I'm not telling you how to do it. I'm going to show you an example of what I might do, but you can do anything you like and you can develop your own patterns. A good thing to do, well, certainly it worked for me in the early days, was I would watch TV and have a ukulele in my hand, and I would just mute the strings and my fingers would just be moving over the strings, doing the pattern that I wanted to cement in my mind. And you can hear a little bit of sound there, but if you've got the TV on, then that'll be drowned out and you can be effectively practicing while you're watching telly. Okay, so let's move on to the particular pattern that I wanted to show you, which is going to start with the G string, start with the fourth string, and then move on to the top string, the A string, then down to the E string, and then finally the C string, and then I'm going to repeat that pattern. So we're going to go 4, 1, 2, 3. 4, 1, 2, 3, and that's all you have to remember. And then again, you just, the more you do it, the more it goes into your mind. So it's 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. I'm using 2 fingers there. My picking style is slightly changed because I work a lot with instruments in the workshop and I'm often sanding down saddles and I damage my nails, so sometimes I don't have nails, sometimes I do, sometimes I have really bad nails like I do now, and in desperate need of a manicure. So don't worry so much about how your picking hand works. Don't copy me necessarily, because I might be having a slightly odd way of doing it because of those nails, but in this case I'm using 2 fingers in, I don't know if it's got an official term, I call it the running man, and that's how it's just how it looks, I suppose. But there's plenty of teachers would tell you to use your thumb and 3 fingers and rest them on the strings. So you've got one digit responsible for each string, so that's a very good method, but in this example I'm just using this running man. So we'll go on this 4, 1, 2, 3 pattern and we'll go through the full chord progression again. Next we'll add the colourful notes using the finger off and finger on technique, and also adding that C note on the A minor at the end. So we'll try that now. got that C at the end there. So that's sort of what I would say is an intermediate picking pattern. So I hope you got something out of that. If nothing else, it's a nice chord progression, something that I just stumbled across and really like the sound of. There's nothing more scientific to discovering a chord progression than playing one chord and then another. A chord progression of 2 chords is still a chord progression, so it could just be the 2 chords that you play one after the other. It could be 10 chords as a repeating pattern. You play 10 different chords and then repeat those 10 different chords, so it can be complicated. But a good thing to do would be just to get your chord chart. Don't worry about it actually fitting in with a song or anything, and just look at some chords and play one after the other and repeat that pattern and see if you like the sound of it. And that's as simple as developing or discovering your own favourite chord progression can be. Just play some chords and see if you like the sound of them back to back, and that's all it is. Anyway, thank you very much, and I'll see you again in the future.
worldofukes.co.uk worldofukes.co.uk